When I first began exploring goddess spirituality, my Jesus-loving mother, to her absolute credit, got me this book, Her Words, a collection of poems about the divine feminine and goddesses throughout time and across the globe. The 2 readings Susan just shared, as well as the text of our meditation hymn, all appear in this book. And that last reading, The Charge of the Goddess, became a very important part of my own theology. She is the soul of nature. All acts of love and pleasure are her rituals. That's the goddess I know. For those who wish to know her, she offers us a list of supposed opposites that we must be able to hold together inside of us. And then the revelation that her mystery is both without and within. I have been with you from the beginning, and I am that which is attained at the end of all desire. She is all, both and she invites me to find that in myself as well. This is definitely one of my holy books. And here is another one. This is the Mother Earth Miraculous Rosary. Now, it was 1999, and we were all making zines, but this is something else entirely. Here's green tar on the cover. It's hand-colored and collaged throughout. The premise of this book is radical to me. It draws parallels between the earth goddesses across traditions, including Mother Mary, including Green Tara, and more. This book offered a whole reimagined rosary with prayers to the Green Mother, she who is Earth's aliveness. I loved the idea. And there were too many prayers and beads and repetitions for me to ever get through the whole Mother Earth Miraculous Rosary. But there is an intriguing idea in this book, an idea that goes along with my experience now of mantra practice. It says, watch over the divine, and the divine will watch over you. This was the point of the prayers, to watch over the Great Mother, and in so doing, invite the Great Mother to show up into our lives. Even if the rosary is too complicated for me, there is definitely something about that idea that I have experienced. I'm not sure exactly how, but somehow I found a video of 108 repetitions of the Green Tara mantra on YouTube. The first version I found listed the 8 pairs of physical and psychological dangers that Green Tara is known to protect from: lions and pride, elephants and delusion, fire and anger, snakes and jealousy, bandits and wrong views, bondage and greed, floods and desire, demons and doubt. That was all sort of baffling to me. But the song was deeply calming. Somehow, it became a part of my practice to put that on in the background, especially when I was having a rough go of it. By the time I ended up in my Pathways for Liberation Introduction to Buddhism course this past fall, I had decades of personal relationship with Green Tara that had nothing at all to do with Buddhism. I also have a master's degree from a Unitarian Universalist seminary that taught me the dangers of misappropriation, of taking a symbol or a practice out of its original context and ascribing it meaning that has more to do with myself than with that tradition I'm borrowing it from. Without a relationship to that original tradition, how could I really know if I was approaching Green Tara with respect? I made encountering her in the Buddhist context my project for the class I took, to see if my personal experience was truly with Tara, or if I would need to find another name for this aspect of the divine feminine that I'd come to know. So getting to know Green Tara was a little harder than I expected in my Intro to Buddhism class. While Tara is known in China, she is deeply venerated in Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhist tradition, where she is understood to be one of the most responsive, and thus the most often called upon, deities of the Tibetan pantheon. But my teacher, J. Tyson Casey, was ordained in the Soto Zen tradition, and in that tradition, the elaborate multiple world systems with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, including the Taras, they aren't present in the same way. I think there's an analogy in Christianity we think about Roman Catholicism and various Orthodox traditions, they venerate saints, right? Well, the North American Christian traditions I was raised in didn't really have anything like that at all. Both Christianities, but very different expressions. And similarly, there are many different Buddhisms. So I realized that Tyson wasn't going to teach me about Tara. He was going to introduce me to Buddhisms. If I wanted to find green Tara in that context, I had to go look for her myself. So Buddhism began as an orally transmitted tradition. As a result of this, the oldest texts of the Buddha's teachings are very repetitive and full of lists to help with memorization. So already that list of dangers that came with Tara's mantra began to make more sense. Different pathways of Buddhism have different lists that they emphasize. Some have more items on a particular list than others, but the key list that is consistent, though not always consistently interpreted across all paths, is the list of the Four Noble Truths. These were taught by Shakyamuni Buddha, who began his life as Prince Siddhartha Gautama, and they were taught in an ancient language that no one speaks anymore. So telling about these ideas must be taken with a frank understanding that I can't capture the full meaning of these words from thousands of years ago. So this is all shorthand, a scratch at the surface, an invitation to learn more. The Four Noble Truths begin with the truth that we experience dukkha, often translated as suffering. This human gig, it gets kind of rough. That's the first noble truth. The second noble truth tells us that there's a reason why we suffer, a cause of our suffering. And here's the place where I've really gotten lost in translation in the past, because the reason for suffering is often translated as desire or attachment. Now, I don't believe my desire for my beloved or my attachment to our children is the root of my suffering. Rather, these things bring joy and meaning to my life, as does my desire to see a more just world and my attachment to our UU values. I want to thank Tyson because I was finally able to connect with the second noble truth through the idea of clinging or grasping, an attempt to hold on to something so tightly that we just squeeze the life out of it. That's the root of suffering. So the third noble truth tells us that an end to suffering is possible. And then the fourth offers us a framework for achieving an end to suffering, the eightfold path, which includes achieving right mindfulness through meditation practices, as well as ways to generate merit and help alleviate the suffering of all beings. So in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha teaches mindfulness practice, the goal of which is to achieve samadhi, a state of complete oneness, of non-self, of interbeing, where, as the Buddhist monk of blessed memory Thich Nhat Hanh taught, quote, "We see that everyone and everything belongs to the same stream of life. Unto me all things proceed, and unto me they must return." So our UU value of interdependence points us to this truth of oneness, and Buddhist meditation offers us a tool to experience that oneness for ourselves and see that practice of experiencing oneness as an antidote to our own suffering and the suffering of others. Here's another Buddhist list for you. There are 3 poisons which plant the seeds of suffering. These are greed. I think in our increasingly unequal society, it is clear that greed is a poison that grows into suffering. And another poison is hate. Again, I see the truth of hate's poison all around us. But the first one on that list of the 3 poisons that cause suffering is the delusion of separateness. Because even greed and hate grow out of that number 1 poison of believing that anyone is other, that my liberation could ever be complete without the liberation of all beings. And this is the context in which Tara must be placed. She is called the mother of liberation. And rather than be convinced by the religious men that her practice would be more powerful if she were reincarnated into a male body, Tara turned the Buddhist teachings of oneness into a powerful takedown of a system that said her prayers and devotions dedicated to alleviating the suffering of all beings were somehow less because of her gender. No, she said, here, no man, no woman, no I, no individual, no categories. Men or women are only denominations created by confusions of a perverse mind in this world. Even as the Buddha's own words placed the most senior religious woman below the most junior male monk, Tara goes to the heart of Buddha's teachings of oneness and blows up the entire concept of gender difference. And she commits to those men in that moment that she will always be reborn as a woman. She will achieve Buddhahood as a woman, that all the merit that she generates in her practice will be brought into the world through a woman. They think she should be reborn a man? Tara's going to show them. That's my girl. So I don't know if you know, but today is Non-Binary Parents' Day. That's the third Sunday in April, the day where we celebrate parents who aren't necessarily mothers or fathers or who are both and more. Today, I honor Tara's own expression of the truth that our essence, our oneness, is non-binary. Tara is called the mother of liberation, but at the same time, she denied that gender was truly a salient category in the context of spiritual life. And in fact, in some traditions, Tara is portrayed as a man. As Unitarian Universalists, embracing transgender, non-binary, intersex, and gender-diverse people is a fundamental expression of our religious values. And Tara offers us a window into the possibility that the world is not as binary as we might have thought. We honor Tara on Non-Binary Parents' Day, and we honor the non-binary parents among us who embrace the possibility of both and in the ways that you show up in the world. Thank you for showing up as yourself. And so does my mother goddess. Remember? All those opposites that we must hold if we are to know her. We must practice the both and, the mirth and the reverence, the honor and the humility, transcending binaries. And although I've been wary of Buddhist invitation to abandon desire because it is the root of suffering, when I look now at the charge of the goddess, I noticed that all along she has promised me that at the end of desire, she is there. And even though I needed a female face of the divine to start my own journey, when I meet Tara in her context, I see that binary gender is too small to reflect not only the diversity of humanity, but absolutely the utter wholeness of the divine. My journey into Buddhism, guided by Green Tara, has led me into a deeper relationship with the oneness that is central to my own earth-centered faith and to our UU value of interdependence. While I have appropriated Green Tara to be among my pantheon, through my study, through my learning, I do not believe I have misappropriated her. In conclusion, I take refuge in Tara, our holy parent, ever birthing liberation into the world for the benefit of all beings, whether male, female, or non-binary, until all suffering is no more.